What's up, guys?
What's up, guys?
We have no way of knowing if we're live right now. So can you give us a 5x5 in the chat if you can hear us, and let us know if you can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Oh.
That's up to you.
Hold on.
Oh, first a word from our president.
Here's my next tweet. I call it a tweet. Trademark.
You totally failed on that intro. You bombed it.
Totally.
It was supposed to
Screwed
start
it
with
up.
James saying, and here's a word from our president.
Oh, nobody told me.
You're the one who told us. That's what you were
No, I
gonna
thought
do.
you were gonna do it.
People can hear us. Okay. Anyway, that was a fail.
Yeah.
What's
That's
up,
still funny.
guys? Obviously, as you can see, we're out here at ECETI chopping firewood, getting paid in dad jokes. James is a slave driver out here, so this is the one break we get all weekend.
The best form of pay.
Yeah. I wish my back was saying the same thing.
So yeah, it's always awesome to be able to come out here and hang out and spend some time on the ranch. I realize not everyone gets a chance to do that, so we're very grateful to be out here, and thanks for letting us come out.
Saw some good ships the night before last too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as soon as James went inside, all
Yeah.
the ships came out. A couple
Yeah.
power-ups. Not much. Before we came out here, you got some squatch prints, didn't you?
Yeah. We got some really good squatch prints in the field. And there's a couple witnesses that saw a very young one. I think it's the same one, Delaki, the young one that comes around here. And she saw him walking across the field, and we walked out right to where he walked, and we got a nice print. And
Nice.
it's about a size 15 shoe or something, 16. I don't know. It's
They actually has the ridge and everything on it too.
yeah,
right?
yeah. And you put my shoe next to it, and I have size 11 shoe, and it was like another 3 inches past that, about 3
Wow.
inches past that.
Yeah.
That's
It's
crazy.
massive.
How's the chat looking? Can they still hear us? Okay, good.
Great.
So yeah, actually, before we even get started, there's something you told last time I was out here over the winter. You told a story about a Sasquatch sighting you had, the woman. The
Oh
crying woman.
yeah.
It was probably my favorite story I've heard of a sighting. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, it had different levels to it. It was quite interesting. But what happened was I was in this Snoqualmie Mountains. I don't want to say exactly where, because I really believe these guys are their own nation. They need to be left alone. I don't go around chasing them or things like that, but I have run into them a lot out in the woods. And there was a female. And what happened was I was with two other people. We were camping, and then I heard this loud kind of a moan roar together. And I go, what the heck was that? My first impression was Bigfoot. That's got to be Bigfoot. And then my mind kicks in and goes, nah, it was probably a mountain lion, or because they make weird noises, especially when they're mating and things like that. And I said, no, that wasn't. I've heard that before. It wasn't anything. And so it was a full moon night, and it wasn't quite dark yet. The moon was full, and it was just bright out. And there's a sand wash. And so I started walking towards the sound. My curiosity goes, I want to see it. I want to see what this is. And I heard it a couple times, and it sounded like it was hurt really bad. It was distraught. And so I walked down this little trail of the sand wash, and there was a stump and some little bushes, small bushes, and it was sitting on the stump. And I walked up to it, and I could see it, and I got, within 50 feet of it, even closer, basically, because when it got up, it walked at an angle by me. And I sat and I held my hands out to show it. I didn't have any arms. I didn't have, guns or anything. And I kept trying to contact it telepathically, saying, are you all right? Can I help? And so she sat there, and she knew I knew she was there. And we just sat there and looked at each other for a minute. She was really quiet. And then she stood up and turned sideways and walked right by me. And I could see her breasts. I could tell she was a female. And what's really interesting is that she nodded and kind of smiled, like nodded. And I got this message like, thanks, but no thanks. We don't trust humans, which is rightly so.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so she just took off, and and went right in front of me. Now, the weirdest thing about it is that there was a sand wash that she was walking across, and then the forest was probably another 40 feet, or at least 40, 50 feet, and she just phased out and disappeared. And I'm missing a part of the story too. Before I walked down there, there was a light sphere that came through the forest. It came right at me. I was cooking dinner and I grabbed the pan and I went to block it, and it went around me and it went down that trail. So, you know, this is an assumption, but I kind of assumed that maybe that was her, you know, in a transcendent form, cruising through the forest. Look, and now it gets more. So what happened was, the reason I got so close to her is she was really distraught. And so Tom Dongo, who's a remote viewer at the time, he was one of the first remote viewers out and really accurate. And so I get back home, and we didn't have any cell phones, and there's no way we could contact each other. And I said, "Hey, Tom, you'll never imagine what I saw, you know, on the trip." And he smiles and he goes, "Bigfoot." And I go, how could, out of everything, how could he just
Yeah.
pull that? And he goes, "Actually, it was a female." I go, "Boy, two for two, you know,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
good." And then he goes, "She was really distraught because she lost her daughter. She was separated from her daughter and thought something happened to her daughter." And I said, "How can this guy, you know, he's just nailing it, you know?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "I was remote viewing your whole trip, you know?" And so I go, okay, anything else? And I said, "Well, what about the daughter? Did they find the daughter?" And he said, "Yes, she's with the others. The others found the daughter, and they're all together now." I said, "So there's a whole tribe of these big?" And he said, "Yeah." So that was my one experience. I didn't feel threatened at all by it. I felt no fear. I felt a being that was extremely sensitive and emotional, and not wanting to have anything to do with humans, basically, is what I experienced.
And what kind of noise was she? You said she was like making a groaning noise, right?
It kind of, it went like this, and then it went like a moan, like a deep,
Yeah.
sorrowful moan.
Almost.
And
wow.
Wow.
it was really, when you felt it, you went, "Oh man, that's sad." You know,
Yeah.
you really felt the sadness around it, like somebody really hurt or wounded or distraught, you know.
Did you notice any like change in the air, like a density change or a frequency difference being that close to one?
You know what? I didn't, because when they project on you, you feel it. You know, if they want you to leave their area. I had another experience, if you don't mind, where we went into a Bigfoot area and there's a big male there,
Mhm.
and he was stomping and breaking branches and saying, "Not here. No, we don't want you here."
Right.
And boy, the hair on my arms stood up, you know, on my neck, and I just felt, "Get out." I mean, the psychic energy was saying, "Get out." And so I did, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we left. I was with another friend of mine, and we were in a canoe, and we went back to the other part of the lake. Again, I'm not gonna tell you where this is because I don't want people messing with them. But and so I went, and we had a banana and a couple apples. And so I meditated and I apologized. I sent a telepathic message, and I went back over there and dropped off the apple and the two apples and the banana. And I put it about 4 or 5 feet in on a rock, so there's water between. And so I set it down, and I didn't feel the negativity that time at all. And I set it down, and I said, you know, I said a little prayer, "Sorry, you know, I apologize. I had no idea. And here's a gift," you know. And we started paddling back out. And I was paddling, and she was facing the back. And I said, "Hey, keep an eye on that apple and the banana, because it's going to have to make a splash to get them, you know."
Mhm.
And she goes, "What apples?" She goes, "They're gone," you know.
Wow. And then how, like a matter of what, minutes?
Yeah. I mean, we'd gone,
Wow.
we paddled maybe 80 feet away or so, and that was it. And they were gone.
So that means that they have to somehow like phase in and grab it without leaving a footprint or
Nothing.
splashing
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, you know, we didn't see it. I mean, the first time we did see something, but you couldn't make it out really clear what it was. But
Right.
it was really big, and it was breaking branches and making it it was like grunting
Yeah.
and made it very clear that they did not want us in that area.
We were just down in your property earlier and you noticed a couple apples you left out were missing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he put another one up. So I guess we'll check that later.
Yeah, we put
Yeah.
apples out and I put a game camera out and the apples sat there forever. And I said, this is I shouldn't be putting a game camera out there, and I took the game camera down and then the apples are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
They know they're being
Yeah.
filmed.
Yeah.
well, they
Yeah,
know
they're smart.
they know your intention too. If you're trying to capture them on film,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like if you're leaving the apple as a genuine gift, like here's an apple as a gift,
Yeah.
then they'll come and get. But if they know, oh, this is
Which-
bait,
Which makes
You
sense
know.
of why all the people that hunt for Bigfoot and they always have cameras and
Yeah.
they never
Yeah.
find them because
yeah,
they can sense you a mile away. And
Right.
They know
Well,
you're
they had
being
the
filmed.
Native Americans up here have a saying. They said, if you go searching for Bigfoot, you'll never find it. But if it wants to, it will find you.
Yeah, if you find it, that it wants you to
It
see
wants
it.
to be found,
Yeah.
and it's all about consciousness and intent.
Yeah.
They
Right.
sense your intent.
So what's really interesting about the grieving woman and the family you saw?
Mhm.
I had a dream or an astral. So I've had a few experiences where you're in particular are teaching me how to astral travel.
Oh, yeah.
And we met up on this like mountain that like overlooked space. It was really weird. And you took me to this location where there was a family of Sasquatch.
Mhm.
And it was so real to me. It's like I've had a sighting. Like I can imagine exactly what they look like. But the first one I saw was a woman, and I knew that because I noticed her breast.
Yeah.
And she wasn't like, she was a thinner looking, and she was walking up this hill. There was like a clearing in the woods. She was walking up this hill, and I looked to where she was walking, and there was like a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a location that you had taken me to. Well, at
Nice.
least in my experience, you probably had no idea.
Yeah. No, I do remember some of that, but not all of it. But there has been a female Sasquatch that's come around here that has a little daughter,
Yeah.
another little girl,
Mhm.
and other people have seen her. And it's funny, she was little tiny footprints, little
Yeah,
big footprints.
That's
little
funny.
footprints, I guess.
Little big footprints?
Yeah,
Little
little
footprints.
big footprints.
little
Yeah.
foot. Juvenile,
Yeah.
juvenile
Mhm.
prints. There you go. The juvies.
Yeah.
So what the hell's going on in the world right now?
Oh, God.
The big question we
Yeah.
all want to know.
Big question.
Well, we were tipping earlier and we were tapping into some information. Obviously, there's like a lot of contradicting narratives right now
Yeah.
on ufology and what's actually happening on the world stage and the galactic level. And we were getting into like what was really going on in Afghanistan and
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff. What's coming through for
Well,
you?
two nights ago, I was in the astral level and I was actually on a ship. And the ship was cruising through Australia, which was interesting. They're having all the problems there.
Yeah.
And there's so much inhumanity going on because there's non-human interference, and people need to
Mhm.
realize that it's not physical. It's beings that either sold their soul or did ceremony, and they're no longer. They've lost all sense of humanity, all empathy, all.
Soul.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
soulless almost.
And there's the other level. So there's seen and unseen influences. And we're in 4D and we're on a ship and we went over this volcano area. And a lot of people on that ship, other people I felt were familiar to me. You could have been on the ship for all I know.
Yeah.
And we came in and we had to block. They're really good at PK or psychokinetic stuff and actually messing with your head and mind. And so my job was to block them so they couldn't interfere with the thing. And we could not attack them straight on because they had really good defenses. And so when they launched these missiles off this craft, which was huge, and it was a craft within a craft within a craft kind of,
Yeah.
and so even if you took all kinds of shots, it wouldn't matter. But and it was shielded, but they shot these missiles that came out. They came out and went down, like looped around and came back in.
It's
And I was telling them, you can't go direct with these guys. You got to come around the back or you
it's
got
like a homing missile.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it was quite interesting. It was so vivid. And so we're multidimensional beings, and there's aspects of us that are fighting wars and things, and with these unseen negative influences. And their world is just as physical to them. Because like, if let's say here I'm in third dimension, well, this table is 3D. I can touch this table. If I'm a 4D being, I'm going to go right through the table. But if it's a 4D table, I could touch it and knock on it just like this,
Yeah.
you know, the same. So it's good to understand that. So we all have multidimensional bodies all the way back to the source, and we're doing all this work on these different dimensions. And so a lot of us wake up just tired, you know, like, God,
Well,
all night I've been,
That
That's-
happened to us last night.
Yeah,
yeah.
We both got attacked, I guess you could call it
yeah,
last
yeah.
night. So I woke up, and the whole bedroom wall was missing. Basically, like it was never even built, or it had been
Mhm.
removed. And it was actually daylight. I forgot to tell you that
Yeah.
part. It was daylight, and I was like, "What the heck?" You know. And I got up to walk outside into the field,
Mhm.
and the next thing I know, I'm in this room with it's an all white room with a little white folding table and a folding chair at the end of it. No one else was there. Actually, there was a little gray. There was a
Yeah.
little gray there. And I walked up to the table, and there was an envelope on the table. And that's the last thing I remember. And I woke up this morning feeling like I had never even slept. Like I was
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
depleted. And then we tipped on it, and it appeared to be some type of attack.
The
or they-
my tray guys
Yeah.
and the grays, the smaller grays, but and they did the same thing to me. Basically, they just came and tried to drain all my life force.
Right.
And I was laying there in bed going, oh, God, I'm dying, you know, and I go, okay, this is not mine. And I woke up and did clearings and
And then Aaron's
And-
sleeping in his light body all night. Not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
I
getting
was
touched.
fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the
They leave me
story of
alone
my
for
life.
some
Yeah.
reason. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Like some-
I'm getting destroyed by reptilians, and Aaron's sleeping in his light body.
Yeah, like when I lived with you, that's
Mm-hmm.
you'd always be like, "Man, I got attacked last night." I'm like, "That's so great."
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, man. It sucks.
Yeah.
No, but what do you think? So I'm really curious about what was going on in Afghanistan, because it's kind of already going away. You know, Trump just did his rally last night. He was talking about the Marines that were lost and all that stuff. But clearly there's more going on that
Yeah.
meets the eye. And what's your opinion on what's happening over there? Or what-
Well, all along, there's some really interesting things going on with the Taliban, is that they were very anti-drugs, they're anti, you know, it's in their religion, they're anti-gambling, anti-drugs, all this stuff. And so they were taking out the poppy fields and the other stuff before, and a lot of the military going over there, and a lot of them have talked about it. They said, yeah, we were on detail guarding the poppy fields. And so there's always been some extreme drug and human trafficking going on with the military, which is being cleaned up right now, and some top generals involved in that. And they're not as bad as they've been, you know, put out to be. And then you've got the other groups like ISIS and they're really fanatics, you know, that are serious problems. But if you really think about it, they're the one country that there is no new world order there. I mean, they shut down the vaccination everything, and they're in total control.
Well, you're right. And they immediately banned the vaccines, they banned the opium, the opioid epidemic is over.
Yeah,
And prior to 2001, there was no opioid epidemic. But it's really interesting if you think about the people who have been telling us that the Taliban is bad. The Clintons, the Bushes, the Obamas,
Mainstream media.
the mainstream media.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it's
biggest
almost
drug
like
pushers on the planet.
it's almost like ISIS is the real enemy, but they're using the Taliban as a fall guy.
Mhm.
And there's something more going on there. And then you have Trump in all of his speeches saying, you know, the Taliban are really good fighters. They're some of the best.
Yeah.
And he makes sure to say that every time. And I actually wrote down something else he said in particular. He said, they're going to kill some evil people for us, some very bad people. Why would
there you go.
why would he say
You
that?
wouldn't say that about
Yeah.
a terrorist.
And they seem to be
organization.
well equipped now to do that. you know?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
they were driving around in bumper cars, eating ice cream, having dance parties. They had brand new clothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. One of the photos, there was a MAGA hat in the background. It's definitely,
Clearly something different than we're being
Yeah,
told here.
yeah, I always tell people, you've got to go to the heart for your information and meditate. Forget about external forces anymore, because it's just a big poop show, if I can say that right now. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's like, I can't believe the stuff out there right now. And there's so much misinformation. There's so much social engineering. And we were talking earlier about, you know, the critically thinking research impaired. socially engineered
Right.
sheep, you might say,
Yeah.
out there
Yep.
that don't have a clue what's going on.
No.
And you know, and the more I do research and the more I look into this on other levels, the more I realize I don't know, and what I did know was wrong, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not going to say I know everything, and truth is always unfolding and changing, but there's so many layers of disinformation and social engineering on top of us. It's
Mhm.
so hard to get to the truth, and whatever you experience is going to be done through your reference points. And so if you've been so socially engineered, whatever you see, you're going to use those reference points to determine what's going on. And
Right.
that it's not easy. There's a thing called the Buddha mind, or the fresh mind. You have to let go of all social programming, all societal programming, everything, and look at everything with a fresh mind. And then you start seeing, hey, this doesn't add up. You know,
Mhm.
this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And then you start seeing the truth about what's really
Yeah.
happening.
And it helps
Yeah.
to have a galactic understanding too of what's going on.
Yeah.
At least somewhat.
Yeah.
Because
That's the real,
that's
that's
the,
really the real stuff. That's
Yeah,
going
the
on,
big
yeah.
picture, what they tell us is, they said creators got this, you know, the
Yeah.
big
Mhm.
picture. So there's multi-dimensional things happening here. So we are in these temporal wars and multi-dimensional wars. Everybody has different terminology for it. And they have to do with time, they have to do with dimensions, they have to do with, or densities, some people call them densities. And it's to wrap your head around this, you've got to get out of the body and the personality and get into more of your etheric mind, I would say.
Right.
Even your astral body is just going to get a part of it, but you have to get to the big picture. You have to start working with the masters, the higher dimensional, you know, the ascended ones, or people from 5D on,
right.
to really understand what's happening. And then you see the bigger picture. But you know, you'll see that what they told me is about 90% of the reptilians are gone.
Yeah.
They've been removed. That had to do with all the dumbs and everything else. And they said about 87% of the grays have been removed, but we're still having, they're still here, as we have seen, you know, and they
Yeah.
are going after the light workers and the people that are really holding a frequency and doing the work.
Right.
You know, a lot of people go, oh, they're not touching me, you know, and I go, well, you're not a threat, you know. So
Yeah.
because I know a lot of us have had a lot of past lives where we've warred with these beings, and,
Yeah.
and we know who they are, and and they're here to try to make our lives miserable, because we made their lives pretty miserable in the past life.
Yeah. And,
You know, so
and if we, even in this life, who knows what we're actually doing in the astral some nights that we just
Yeah.
don't remember. And
exactly.
we might be more of a threat than we even know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, you know, we have to suffer the physical consequences of it.
Mhm.
Like our last week's episode, we talked about reptilians and royal
Mhm.
bloodlines. Well, the night before that, I got attacked. Go figure. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
You will.
So, I mean, when you're calling them out directly like that.
Oh, I had Peter Slattery on my show, and we were calling out the posers, you know, instead of disclosure. We've got 70 years of posers, you know,
Right.
out there, and talk about getting attacked. And every time you call this out, they come after you big time. And you've got everything from black magic to grays to reptilians, and all the ones that are orchestrating this nonsense to keep humanity dumbed down and you know,
Yeah.
in fear and everything else. So they come at you. And so you got to really learn how to maintain sacred space and clear unseen negative influences, and do a little spiritual battle sometimes, you
Yeah.
know, and it's a prerequisite.
Real quick, when it just popped in my head, something I wanted to mention about the Taliban over in Kabul. Is it Kabul? Where,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So that another thing they were doing was removing murals of George Floyd.
No, really.
But first of
yeah.
all, why were there murals of George Floyd
In
in
the first place.
Kabul in the first
Yeah,
place?
Yeah.
yeah.
So who put those murals there? Obviously, the deep state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the Taliban's
And they're
removing
removing
them.
them. So
So yeah, that's also
Yeah.
telling. That's
Yeah.
just something I wanted to add to that. But I totally agree with you as far as everything you were just saying. And another thing I want to get into is like the contradicting narratives right now. We have to remember that like it's war, it's spiritual war, and people are being duped. People are being tricked. Some people might be punked, as you could say. They
Yeah.
might be getting information from what they think is a legitimate source.
Mhm.
And you know, that's why it's good to fact check all the stuff and double check it, and don't just prematurely share something without
Yeah.
vetting it first. And some
Yeah.
stuff we just simply can't prove, and you just have to state it as that, you know, and
Yeah, put a disclaimer on there.
yeah,
let
I do that all the time. I said, can anybody verify this?
Right.
And boy, everybody comes at me, this is fake news, this is it. And I go, look, no, read the above the line and below it. I put it above and below so they can't miss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, and one is this big Supreme Court thing where they won this case and outlined there's no international vaccine and everything else. It may or may not be true. I still don't know. Nobody's been able to verify it. If you
Right.
go to the docket on the Supreme Court, you know, we didn't see it there. But I mean, we're still saying, okay, can somebody validate? I know there's major movements and there's court cases around this.
Mhm.
But as far as them winning and being on the docket and things like that. And what's really interesting too is these mandates, you know, supposedly Biden did these mandates, but they're not there. They're not on paper, they're not on the books.
oh, yeah, right,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so all these people are taking
So it's just a
orders that
show.
aren't there. There's
Right,
no
yeah.
orders. And so social media and the mainstream is making up these stories, but there's no document to back it up. There's no legal,
well, that and the executive orders he was signing early on,
yeah.
like the mountain of them.
Mhm.
People were zooming in on those photos and they were blank pieces of paper.
Yeah.
It was a signature that didn't match Joe Biden's. There were so many discrepancies, the Oval Office, everything about it was fake, you know,
Yeah.
we've figured that out by now. And
Yeah.
And he goes, what am I signing?
yeah, the one
Yeah.
time-
He goes,
yeah.
what am I signing here?
And
Yeah,
then, so then they show that, they roll that film, they show the pictures of the executive orders, and then you have us just taking the mainstream media's word for it,
Yeah,
that these executive orders are now in play. And that's it. We have nothing else to go by. You can research it and look, I mean, everybody was arguing, no, there's, you know, all these discrepancies and it doesn't go into effect until this many days or whatever.
yeah.
But when it comes down to it, we're just taking their word for it all.
And you know, the
Yeah.
military too,
Yeah.
I have friends in the military and they're saying, yeah, we have to, there's an executive order. We have to get, you know, by this date.
Yeah.
And I said, well, where's the order? And
Yeah,
he goes, well, my commanding officer said this. And I go, yeah, but
Right.
what order is he going from? And it's
It's-
not,
It's like they're
not
just
there.
saying these things and then people believe it. But
Yeah, they hear it
but-
on the news.
But if
they-
you start looking into it and like, okay, well, where's the proof? Like, and then
It's
it's not
what's
there.
that telephone game or
fake.
whatever they call that,
Yeah.
that one? It's like
Yeah,
that. It's like
telephone.
some rumors were started at the top
Mm-hmm.
and, but they were never done and everybody's just running on the rumors. you
Yeah.
know, So,
yeah.
It's all psychological.
Well,
Yeah.
our friend who's in the army, he was in the same situation and he had to go have a meeting, a counseling session with his colonel or whoever it was. And they were trying to like, oh, you're the only one here who hasn't gotten the jab yet. Why is that? And he was like, he just laid down his case, laid down his argument. And he goes, bottom line is this hasn't been tested long term. They don't know the effects on the human body. And I don't want that in my body.
yeah.
And he said, I know the date I have until sometime in 2022 to get it. And he goes, no, now you have till November 5th. And he goes, where does that date come from?
Yeah, show me the
Show me.
proof of
And he
that.
couldn't provide it. And
Mhm.
he's still to this day, you know, he has not got it. He's the
Yeah.
only one where if he works, where he works that hasn't gotten it. But this is what they're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, most of these other guys in the military just see it as another jab because
Because they're
they've-
so used to
They've already
getting
been
them.
jabbed.
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
They're
that's
just like, what's another one?
they don't
Yeah.
understand it. They're like, whatever, just one more. You've already stuck 1,000 in
And
you.
yeah, and a lot of them are put on timers and don't even know it.
What do you
Oh,
mean a
yeah.
timer as far as what?
Means it's gonna have effects later that
Oh, like
they
a
don't want a
delay
bunch
How
of,
many
reaction,
years
yeah.
down the road?
they don't
Because
want a bunch of awake snipers running around out there. you know,
exactly.
Yeah.
When they figured out what's really happening. You know,
Plus, they
so.
need them useful for that many years.
Yeah,
And then when
yeah.
they're done, then they're like, okay, now it doesn't matter.
Now,
So-
now you're not an asset anymore.
Exactly.
You're a
So-
detriment. you
So
know.
it's like a time
That's
release
exactly.
serum almost, like that's interesting.
Yeah, there's things in there. I don't want to go into detail, but there are things in there. I mean, there are ways of countering it and getting them out of your system, but
Right.
you need to know that, you know, you need to do certain things to break these things down and get them out of your system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we shouldn't talk about if we want to keep our channel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This video. might be-
Unfortunately.
yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, we've been dodging bullets this whole time and, you know,
Yeah.
counting our
Somehow
blessings.
we're,
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
So about
still
those
going.
UFOs. no.
Yeah,
About
exactly.
those UFOs.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
had to do the same thing. We've
Right.
had to stay away, you know, we have to do hand signals and yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, we have to,
Yeah.
we could probably come up with a whole dictionary of words we've made up to
Yeah.
get past the censorship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would be funny. You could actually.
should, yeah. We'll have code, we'll have Facebook code.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, so this is how you can talk on Facebook and not get. I mean, I have a couple shirts that Brett made me that Facebook jail, you know, like multiple offender.
Yeah.
He made me these shirts that say, you know,
Right.
Facebook felon, you know,
Yeah.
and
Badge of honor. Yeah.
got every 30, I don't know how many, I've had 5 or 6 30-day, you're off for 30 days, you know.
Yeah.
As soon as I come back on, I go, I wonder how long they're gonna let me, and I go, bam, bam, just start nailing it.
We've had
again.
our profiles deleted. We've had our
Yeah. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
page deleted.
Spotify.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Twitter, Spotify.
Yeah, they
Instagram.
were really coming down, and now they're lightening up quite a bit. Because I've gotten away with stuff like Patrick, you know,
Yeah.
Patrick, your
Patrick.
new little friend.
Yeah.
That's gonna be with you
Gosh.
forever. That will do the driving from
Man,
here on out.
I saw that video. I'm like, if all you need, like, if you just show people like normies this video and like this is proven is in at least the Moderna vaccine.
Yeah.
So what's to say, you know,
Right.
if it's in one,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and it's like, do you want this? All you gotta do is like, do you want this injected into your body?
Well, there's a
It's
thing
like,
called a
is that really
safety. What's that one thing? Yeah. There's a report they have to give you that proves
The
it's
safety
safe.
data sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 People need to ask for that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Going
Exactly.
back, going back just to change that subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't get away
Said
from
the M word. You're in trouble.
Going back to
Uh-oh.
Biden and those executive orders, right? So we know, I mean, I don't care if some people can say sauce, no sauce, whatever. I'm gonna straight up say, I don't think that's Joe Biden. I don't think it's him.
It's not.
I don't know if he passed away and this is a clone, this is a body double, or all the above actors.
Mhm.
But the interesting thing is if it is like a clone or something, I've heard like channelers and stuff say, take it for what it is, but they say clone cannot sign an executive order. It has to be the original body. And if he really is no longer here, then none of those executive orders actually, they just don't mean anything anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
because a
it's-
clone is not technically
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or a
It's-
body double, or an actor,
Or a body double.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. So it's not actually legal if he's not the one actually signing. Well, first of all, he's not legitimately president
Anyway,
Yeah,
so it's like double. Yeah.
but
Yeah, there's
So-
2 questions you could ask before I followed this order, you know,
yeah,
prove to me the real person signed it. And
Yeah.
second of all, you know, you can go on and on.
Plus,
But,
if an order is unlawful and unjust anyway,
Yeah,
it's in the Constitution, literally.
null and
That it's
void.
null and void.
Yeah.
So there's triple layer.
yeah,
on
there's
top
triple
of it.
layers to that.
It's
but
like,
I tell you one thing, I saw an event where a lot of people saw that where he was just staring up in the sky and he was on the off switch basically.
yeah,
And he was staring at the sky and just like not moving or anything. And there's a guy with a little laptop and he was trying to get control over the thing. So I tell you my theory, and this was crazy, but
whatever.
I
bring it on.
asked and I meditated on it and they said silicon. And I said, silicon, what are you talking about? And they said AI silicon. And so I said, okay, that's one possibility. And then actors, you know, I got, okay, there's actors and you can see the mask. You can see the line
Yeah,
on the mask all the
Yeah,
time and it doesn't
yeah.
fit right.
you
yeah,
see it on
And
the-
his
on the
handlers come
ear.
out and they look at him, they go, oh, you can see they're
Right,
freaking out because
right.
his mask is sideways or not right.
right.
And, you know, all that, I mean, that's obvious. And so I think like everything, even like 911, there's not one thing that happened there. And that gets everybody in-house fighting because one person is saying it's a particle beam, one person saying there were no planes, another person saying it was thermite, another person is saying it was a nuke. And what if it was all the above?
Yeah.
Right,
You
right.
know,
It was like
It's
a
like-
perfect cocktail of all these.
Yeah.
There were
weapons, yeah.
explosives planted. There's proof
Exactly.
that there were explosives that went off in the building.
shape
also.
charges, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all of the above, probably.
And you know, and the way the cars were melted, you know, it was
Yeah.
obviously there's some other technology.
Energy,
being
You
used
know,
there.
energy weapons.
What's
yeah.
interesting about that is, remember Larry, the guy I talked about, actually I spoke about at the
Yeah,
conference, who
yeah.
was trying to recruit me to go to Mars, right?
Yeah,
One of the things he was telling me, this was back before we heard about the fake alien invasion. He was telling me about a fake alien invasion. And he said there's buildings all over the world that are already pre-rigged with explosives to work in
Mhm.
tandem with Project Bluebeam, which he also told me about
mhm.
back then.
Yeah.
And he said, so it'll appear as if it's firing a missile or a weapon or a laser at a building, and then it'll,
And
and
they
then
trigger
it'll trigger
the-
the explosive.
Mhm.
And he said, that's what he told me. Obviously, it's
Mhm.
no way to prove that, but it's really interesting
Oh, yeah.
because we know that was the case with 9/11, and it's very possible that they used blue beam.
So if it happened there, of course they would.
Yeah, you
do
see
it
those
a
planes
whole
flying
bunch
in
of-
and their wing is going through these other
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah,
And you're going, wait a second, you know,
Right.
how does that happen?
Well,
That
then
can't be
and
right.
then, exactly. And then that's like we said earlier, they want us bickering on the small details,
but
but
it don't ultimately matter.
But you said
yeah.
earlier, two things you know, it happened, and then who benefited from it, right?
Yeah,
And
that's all you
what's
need to
the
know.
agenda behind
Forget
it?
about
Yeah.
all the other arguments.
Everything else
Did
doesn't
it
matter.
happen? Yes, it happened. Who benefited?
Right.
Follow the money, everything. All you gotta do is skip all the fluff. Just say, you know, okay, is this real? Did it happen? And who benefited?
Well, that's,
And then you get right to the meat, you know,
Right.
of what's going on.
and that's something good to go by even now with current events, because it is such an illusion. It's such a show that trying to evaluate it, analyze it is almost a waste of energy. It's like designed to siphon your energy in a way.
Yeah.
They want us evaluating and breaking this stuff down, and like, how did it happen? Who's behind it? Who did this? Who did this?
And arguing with each other.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll have 5 or 6 things happen. And that's just so everybody will fight around it. And
Right.
it's not just with everything, there's not just one event that happened. There's like 5 or 6 layers to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you have to realize that.
Right. And then Trump's openly stating now that November 3rd was the true insurrection.
Yeah.
He said multiple times he's never conceded.
Yeah.
We have the law of
It
war.
said
yeah.
President Trump on
Yeah,
the
oh,
bottom.
Yeah,
like,
this is always says President Trump.
not former president.
We have the law of war manual and devolution that's saying that both are pointing towards a shadow government that's almost provable at this point. And we know we have certain people saying that he's still running the show.
Yeah.
I know somebody personally in the military who claims, he's telling me, I just have to take his word for it, but he said they answer to Trump. He said they
Yeah.
do not honor, they do not respect Biden is not their president. That's the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of evidence of that.
Yeah.
Right after Biden got
Well, fake,
inaugurated.
like rent a cop uniforms and no
the
badge.
military
Yeah,
having
yeah.
their backs turned to him.
Yeah, right.
All kinds of stuff. Him not flying on Air Force One.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
it-
There's some
like, on
things
a
getting ready to
private plane.
happen that I don't really go into it like because I've seen things and you don't want to put the cart out before the horse because it puts other people in danger. But I've seen some things coming up and I'm just gonna keep quiet on it until they happen.
You can't tell us that and not,
Yeah.
not give us a hint.
Well, just watch the Senate,
Yeah.
you know, just watch the Senate and watch, you know, a lot of the judiciary guys, you know, and see what's going on, but they have everything. The
Yeah,
military has
they do.
everything.
Right,
They
right.
know
Mhm.
exactly what happened, who did it, who is behind it. They've got everything. All this other stuff is just trying to get the masses to figure it out and get on board, you know, and, you know, find that impeccable integrity and honor again. I mean, that's what that's all about, and everything is there. They have everything. They've leaked out a lot of it. A lot of it's come out. And, you know, one thing that really irritates me is like when you know the truth and then you see and I don't watch TV or anything anymore, but when you see the CNN jokers and these guys and MSM and all these guys, you see them talking, everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie. It's like,
Yeah.
that's a lie.
One-
That's a lie.
like
That's a lie. That's a
Straight
lie.
up lying through their teeth,
And they're-
made up propaganda.
Yeah, and they're masters at it. They feign
Mhm.
anger and emotions
Emotions,
and
yeah.
everything else. And these guys here are creating severe harm. They're guiding people into harm's way and things like that. And they really need to be held accountable. And you know, I've always had that issue. I just do not like liars.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that's something that just really irks me. And maybe it's something I need to get over. But
Well, no, it's not. I mean,
it's an insult to your intelligence. You know,
Yeah.
you feel they're lying, you know they're lying.
That's it. You don't like
And-
lies because truth has a vibration, so there's a lie, and that
Yeah.
lie actually, it doesn't resonate. It actually, it's an uncomfortable frequency, and it irritates you. There's an
Yeah.
actual physical aspect to that, or energetic aspect. I
Yeah,
should
and
say.
when you're awake, it's like when I was a little kid, I had abilities. I had these strange abilities. My dad would always come to me and he says, "What do you think about this guy?" And he was doing business with these people.
Yeah.
And I said, "Bad news." I go, "Bad news, Dad. Don't do it. Don't do it." And then sometimes he would go ahead and do it. And and it turned out really bad.
Mhm.
And the guy would go, "Oh, your sons, your daughters are so beautiful." And he was just, and all of us would just look at him going,
Yeah.
you son,
Yeah.
we don't like you. We don't, we knew. And so he started listening, to us. And so he would take people before, and it was kind of interesting. And he was a dentist, and he had more free patients on his docket than he had for paying customers, because he goes, well, everybody needs dentistry and I can't turn anybody down. My mom got really upset with him all the time, because
Right.
but we still did well.
Yeah.
We lived comfortably. We weren't rich or anything, but he was like a walking Buddha, his
Sure.
life. And so I had
Nice.
a great role model, to learn from. But we all have that as a kid. We know, we can feel, we can sense when somebody's saying one thing, thinking something else, feeling something different. We feel that something's not right. We know
Yeah.
something's wrong. And then you get into social consciousness, and that all gets knocked out of you,
Mhm.
through all the social engineering and school and all that crap.
Well,
And
it's a deprogramming
Yeah.
agenda. Yeah.
And the people that
I
have
mean,
near-death
yeah.
experiences are shifted back to that time when they had those abilities. Those kick back on again.
Right.
Mhm.
And the thing about why they want us to stay, when you're awake, there's an old saying, an awakened god or goddess can't be controlled. You can't control it,
Yeah.
and that's what they're so upset. And they even say it in their, the elites say that. They said what they're most afraid of is the people awakening and knowing who they are and what they've done. That's
yeah.
their biggest fear.
Right. I
That's
mean,
why they do so much to keep us
They
safe
Suppressed.
and
Yeah,
suppressed.
yeah.
Because they are
They
terrified.
try to
That's-
ridicule you.
as
They
soon
try
as the
yeah,
awakening,
everything,
yeah, it's game over.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, they get actually angry about it and
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
evil.
Mhm.
I remember when Trump was running for re-election, and he was like, it was some like main CNBC like primetime news special where he was being interviewed,
Mhm.
and they were doing questions from the audience. And then the lady interviewing him, who was a straight up witch, demon, whatever, I forgot her
Oh
name,
geez,
I-
she was
Oh, yeah.
she was rough. Yeah.
but she was, you could see it in her
You
eyes,
could
I could feel it.
and see it. Yeah.
And she in particular put him on a spot about QAnon and Satanists running the world and
Yeah.
blah, 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 all the above.
Trying to be like, this is so
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and that you can see what when she was saying that she was triggered.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, she
And
was super
that's
triggered.
why you don't get triggered unless you're threatened.
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
and that's what's happening all over the world right now. And that's why, like on the news, I was saying
Mm-hmm.
earlier, they've been telling, yeah, they're lying to us, but they've been telling us they're lying. They literally call it a cover story.
Yeah.
Tonight's
They
cover
call
story.
it
Yeah.
programming.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
Programming.
Tonight's-
Television, tell a vision.
Tell
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
vision or
I think-
live.
yeah,
Live
I think
vision.
Tell it's live
I think the
vision.
word media is like a Greek word for like illusion or something crazy. I forgot what it means, but the whole
Mhm.
thing is there. We just you just have to know what to look for.
Mhm.
Well, one thing you want to look for is the eyes. When you look in the eyes, because these
Right.
people have
Yeah.
black eyes.
Right. Oh,
You know, I've never seen anything like it. I go, where are all these black-eyed people coming from?
Yeah.
And you start looking, you go, wait a second, here's a picture of before. This guy's eyes are blue. Now here he's up there. Now his eyes are black as coal.
Biden.
There's
Biden,
yeah,
yeah.
Biden's eyes are black.
Kamala,
Right.
Kamala
Biden,
too,
all
yep,
of them.
yeah.
All of them have photographs of them. Now they shift back and forth, I think, but there's so many photographs of them with black eyes.
Mhm.
All of the key people running things on the Democratic side right now, the major key people, watch their eyes.
Yeah.
And you'll see one photograph after another after another. What's her name? The press secretary. I can't.
Saki or whatever.
Black
Yeah.
eyes.
Psaki.
Yeah. There's so many pictures of her eyes just go black.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, she feels same way. Like it's just
yeah.
it triggered. It's just like
She got caught
Ugh.
sticking her tongue out at people. You know, like
Yeah,
and it's kind of a little reptilian of her, but we won't go there.
so
Yeah.
right. You know what's interesting too is all of these articles and websites and stuff I've been seeing are all pointing towards us being in space like real quick. I've
Mhm.
seen ads on Facebook for
Mhm.
become a space architect today, design,
Yeah.
become an engineer and learn how to design structures in space, in particular the moon. And then there was a ad today recruiting. It was called Portal something. What was it called? Something
Something
Portal.
portal.
But they're hiring technicians to work on satellites in space. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden, these job opportunities are opening up. And then Kamala Harris
Like
is
super cringe
as
video.
cringe as
Oh
that
my
video was,
gosh.
you guys might have seen it. Dan
It was
Bongino
rough.
shared it, but she's in a classroom of kids and she's telling all these kids that every single one of you is going to see the craters on the moon with your own eyes, indicating that they're going to be on the moon one day.
Yeah.
And that's like really soon if you think about it. So what actually happened to where everybody's darting to the moon now and into space? And then the Russians are filming the first feature-length film ever in space. Either there's two things going on, or it's both. They're actually doing all this stuff, but we're going to start seeing a lot more space traffic because they can't hide it anymore.
Mhm.
So now when we see stuff, it's a plausible deniability. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's the Russians filming the movie. Oh, those are the guys.
That's a good point.
Those are
Yeah.
the technicians working on the
They
satellite.
can explain it.
Yeah. Oh, these are the space
Yeah.
architects.
Yeah.
Well,
working-
we
yeah.
filmed the space station going by once, and I had
Yeah.
an engineer here. And we've had like triple PhD Boeing engineers and Skunk Works and all these guys, NASA people.
Yeah.
And they've seen the ships and they go, these aren't ours. You know, we don't know who they are, but we do. We know who's on the ships. And everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the space station is going by and it's got this ship trailing it right behind it. And it's about half as big as not, maybe a third as big. And we have it on film. Another ship in front of it, and this massive mothership goes right over it, right in front of it. And it's all on film. So,
Well,
and I had Brooks Agnew.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he's awesome.
So Brooks Agnew is here and he goes, I'm going to call him up and find out what's going on. And so he checks into it. He goes, hey, have you got I know the shuttles are grounded right now, but is there a Russian ship up there like re-outfitting the space station? No, nothing. You sure there's nothing up there? Nope, nothing. And he goes, well, we just filmed a ship trailing the space station, another ship in front of it, and a massive thing go right over the bow of it. And they go, oh, wait,
Oh,
yeah, we
yeah.
do have,
yeah.
yeah, we do have
Definitely.
yeah, and
Definitely
so
not hiding anything at all.
yeah, I mean, so they're busted.
Who was it yesterday that was telling me, your sister maybe, she saw what she thought was Starlink. She saw about 12 of them.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she turned back to watch them and she said 2 of them broke formation and came around and targeted something.
And flanked
and
flanked them,
and
yeah.
Like a
flanked
ship or
one,
something?
and then there was an explosion.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But typically she would otherwise she would have thought it was Starlink. But
Yeah.
then
And
she's
then she
like,
saw that. She's like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
so, and that's another
Yeah.
thing. Starlink is the new weather balloon. Like
Yeah, yeah.
everybody,
Swamp
you
gas
can't-
weather
you
balloon.
can't, you can't take a picture or footage of a UFO without somebody saying
oh,
Starlink.
it's Starlink.
I think
Right,
I
yeah.
filmed 30, I can't remember, it was 31 or 36 ships coming over. And that was the one thing everybody goes, that's Starlink. And I go, and so I looked it up. And it caused a big war, you know, and everybody's fighting on YouTube about it. And I go, guys, I said, Starlink isn't even up yet. They didn't even launch it yet.
Well,
I
that's
said, according to their,
Yeah.
now, and I'm not saying this isn't some secret space fleet thing. It could
Yeah.
have been,
It's just not.
but it's
Starlink.
not Starlink
Yeah.
and it's not anything known. So there
Yeah.
are unknowns to us, you know, but there was 36 of them that came right over the house.
well, isn't the website
Wow.
Heavens and Above?
Heavens above. Yeah.
Heavens above.
You can double check.
And you can type in your coordinates, your whatever, your address, whatever information you have to find out if Starlink was in the sky
Yeah.
Mhm.
in that area at
Yeah,
that
I'll tell
time.
you, yeah.
And I've done that when I was debating the NASA guys who are trying to poo-poo this, you know, on
Mhm.
Fox News and other ones. I go,
Right.
hey guys, guess what? We're using your data.
Yeah.
So either your data is totally corrupt or false, or these are unknowns, because according to your data, they are not, you know, satellites. They're not the space station. They're not EVAStat. They're not any of the ones that you say are up there, you know, so.
Right.
But they, you know, we had one guy from OMSI Planetarium, and the ship came in, landed on the mountain, morphed into 3 ships, back to 1 again. We got the whole thing on film. Jet came in, it took off, led the jet away, and it just reappeared like boom, right there again on the mountain. We got the whole thing on film.
Yeah, it's
The
Starlink.
guy, James Todd, I think is his name, at OMSI Planetarium, looks at the footage. He goes, "Oh, that's just the space station. You know, that's
On
it's
the mountain.
nothing else is to see here, folks. That's the space station."
It's
And
like,
and the guy,
it's like they're not
with
even
the
trying
news,
to make it.
yeah, the guy on the
explainable.
news that was interviewing him said, well, you know, he had a golden opportunity. He said, well, wait a second, this thing is on the mountain. it's landed on the mountain, like,
Right.
Yeah.
and he didn't do that. He just ran it,
For
let
sure
the
the
guy.
space station
Yeah.
doesn't do that.
And so that's, the narrative is so controlled. I think it's so important to cover that. The narrative, we have 70 years of a controlled narrative, and all the UFO things you see on especially like ancient aliens, all that stuff is a controlled narrative. Because they came here and
Yeah.
we gave them all the information. We told them when the ships would appear. They missed it. They didn't even film it.
Yeah.
And they phased me out of everything. They took me out of it because I
Yeah.
knew too much. And I've also been pretty vocal about
Yeah.
child trafficking and things like that. So I'm banned in Hollywood, basically. They're
Yeah.
not going to
They're
show
ju-
me.
yeah, they're
but,
phasing you out.
Yeah.
You just phase yourself.
It doesn't
out.
matter.
Yeah.
I phase myself in because I have my own shows and
Right.
we're making our own videos and
Exactly.
Well,
controlled
so,
narrative videos and things like that.
I don't know if you saw, we did talk about this. October 21st is the National Press Club is putting on a conference basically, and they're going to have retired Air Force veterans, military veterans, and they're all going to be on stage talking about UFOs around nuclear missile testing
Yeah, yeah.
facilities.
Yeah.
And okay, wait a second.
We're way past that.
We're way past
Yeah.
that. Like,
We're way past
they
that.
are so far behind, and they're still just feeding us little breadcrumbs, which it's like they're just repeating themselves. It's like on loop,
Yeah.
and like they're forgetting everything we've already learned. Like in your guest house here, you have walls of VHS tapes. I was
Yeah.
telling Aaron, I was looking at the topics, and there's information there that I guarantee you cannot find online. I guarantee
yeah.
Yeah.
that footage, those videos, those documentaries are nowhere to be found anymore. Because I mean, that's why it's great that you
scrubbed
still
it,
have that stuff. Yeah. But this stuff is already known. And if you do your research, you can find pretty hard evidence to back some of this stuff. Not
Mhm.
everything, but some of it
But a
for
lot
sure.
of it, yeah.
And then now they come out with this report last year or whenever it was,
Fuzzy
it-
Tic Tac, that one.
and it was just a dud. It was a nothing
Yeah.
burger.
Yeah.
Nothing
It
was
was
there.
literally
They
nothing.
they even had the audacity to bring weather balloon back into the occasion. And
Yeah.
it's like, what?
Swamp gas.
And
Like,
how
yeah.
how are they releasing a UFO report in 2021, 22, whenever the hell it was, I forgot. And they had forgotten about Roswell and all this other stuff.
Didn't even mention
Didn't mention any of it,
any of
all
that.
this other knowledge that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
They're ignoring it. And what they're doing is they're trying to almost erase history.
Yeah.
They're
pretend
erasing-
like it didn't
and
exist.
that's what typical narcissist does. They rewrite history so they have no accountability.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to do. Because if we find out that they've been lying, they all have blood on their hands. Treason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're trying to figure out a way to disclose this without telling on themselves.
Well, you know what they're
basically.
finding? They're finding in Antarctica, they're finding feline beings, flash frozen feline beings,
Really?
cone heads, the guys with the big cone heads.
Really?
Mhm.
They're finding all of these things there.
In
that-
Antarctica?
Yeah,
Okay.
a whole civilization that got flash frozen because the Earth's been colonized several times from the stars.
Pole shift.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and from pole shifts and things like that, they had to start over as primitives, and we've had major cataclysms and meteors brought in, smash into the Earth and things like that. So they really don't want you, like ancient aliens is not going to tell you the real history.
They're not going to touch.
No.
any
They're
of
not going to
stuff.
touch that
Yeah.
because the Earth's been colonized several times. We have the genes of the gods, the ancient gods. We have their genetics because they've used their genes along with the Denisovian man and to create hybrids and things like that. So we have those genetics. And that's why all these abductions are happening because they want those genes.
Right.
They want the genes of the super advanced genes. A lot of them are dormant and they're being activated now. But when they say, a lot of times in the Bible, it says man or woman too were created in the same image and likeness of God. They might be talking about genetically,
Yeah.
Right.
It should be
because-
the gods.
Yeah,
Really, like,
and the gods.
multiple
And
different-
just a lot of it's not active, but it's not junk either. It can be activated.
Mhm.
And that's what's happening right now. That DNA is being activated. So if you really want to see an ET, just go in the bathroom, flip the light on and look in the mirror,
Right.
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
know those people coming back now are our ancestors. Most of them are benevolent, especially the ones returning now
Mhm.
are benevolent. The ones that have been here, there's been some malevolent ones that have really interfered with
Yeah.
humanity's progress, and that's being cleaned up right now. And we're going to have this huge awakening. They call it the Great Awakening or whatever, where we're going to realize that we're from the stars.
Yeah.
And that and that we've been suppressed for so long, and the suppressors are going to be removed,
Right.
and their technology's everything, and then the new technologies are going to come in and that are more earth friendly and
Yeah.
people friendly, you might say.
I do think as far as the awakening goes and having like some type of disclosure where they rip the Band-Aid off, like I'm always hopeful for that. But the more we do this show and the more we see things play out, it appears we're getting a more of a gradual rollout, and it's
Yeah.
not going to look like what we want it to. And we may never get the truth.
Well, think about it. Governments the way they are now, you're never gonna get that.
yeah,
from
it's
them.
not going to come
Not
from
gonna
a
get it from
government.
them.
It's not in their
Yeah.
best interest.
You know, there's
to-
two things
to
I
do
wanted
that,
to
so why
say.
would they-
I always said that disclosure is like a 70-year-old Band-Aid, and it's really starting to stink.
Yeah.
And it's time to
Yeah.
rip it off. And I love what Mary said once. She said that, universal peace is not going to come through governments or religions. It's going to come through the hearts and minds of the people.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with disclosure. It's going to come through the hearts and
Mhm.
minds of the people, not through governments or religions or anything else. And they're
Right.
replete throughout the Bible if you read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe in that wholeheartedly. But getting back to my point, as far as it not happening overnight, like
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like, I don't think we're gonna instantly have
gradual, yeah.
hospitals all over the world with med beds in them and
And
stuff
like
like that.
Like
No.
instantly.
Yeah,
no,
it's
gonna
not,
be.
it's, and it's not gonna look like what we wanted it to look like. So, and we have to like kind of go into it, expect the worst, hope for the best, because we don't want to get
Yeah.
our hopes up, because that's what's been happening. We got duped by so many dates, and we thought this was gonna happen way sooner than it was. And we've all been let down, and that might be by design. It's teaching us like, hey, it's going to be up to you. This is in your
Yeah.
hands. No external date, no external savior is going to.
We gotta be the change we want to see.
Yeah.
We
I
gotta
always think
step
about
into
too,
our
like
power.
before the med beds can come in, certain things have to fall,
Right.
Yeah, of
especially big pharma and things like that.
Yeah,
Because
they're
it's
not
a
gonna-
direct,
course.
Yeah.
it's a
I
direct
mean,
threat to that. So what we're seeing now being played out is something so heinous that people are going to say, wow, I got to turn away from this. And I got to search out alternatives if I want to heal.
right.
And that's what's being played out right now. And unfortunately, my feeling is, from when I've been looking at this thing, about 80% of the people are fed up with the present administration and the policies and
Oh,
everything else.
I believe that number. right.
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think it's probably around 80%. And we got to get the other guys on board. But this whole other system, this controlling cabal, whatever you want to call it, has to collapse.
Yeah.
And then all these
Well-
the information and the technology and everything can come in.
Well, we're literally seeing all the signs of a collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think somebody posted something on Facebook. They said at the end of every collapse is the laws get crazier. and,
Yeah.
like, more
Yeah.
insane. Like, and I forget who. That's a quote from somebody,
Yeah.
but I might have butchered
There's
it.
no more subtlety at all.
Yeah, like it's just gonna be
They're just-
insane.
Yeah.
In your face.
Insane
Yeah.
before the
Tyranny. Yeah.
collapse. Right,
Tyranny
Right.
2.0.
And it's almost like stay out of the way of the dinosaurs
Yeah.
while they collapse,
Let them
And
eat
I say
themselves.
dinosaurs because these people are ancient. I mean, there's people in Congress and in politics that have no right being there anymore. Like Joe Biden on a normal day would be in a nursing home.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he would not, like, if
Not the president.
Yeah,
of the United
exactly.
States.
like you
Yeah.
you introduce him to a room full of people, and I
He's
guarantee
dysfunctional.
exactly. I guarantee those people would not vote on him to be in charge of a group of 50 people.
Yeah.
You know,
Let
that's
alone
just that's
the most powerful country on the planet.
exactly
It's
exactly.
like,
So I mean, these dinosaurs, these fossils, they gotta
yeah,
go.
seriously.
They gotta
that's-
go. We have all these indigo children, these starseeds.
Yeah.
Everybody, there's a new wave coming right now.
Well,
And
that
it-
consciousness is going to implode them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they're not, tyranny is not frequency specific to the ascension process. And that's what's going to take them out, because the planet's ascending
Yeah.
and they're not frequency specific to this process, and it's going to take them out, and their kingdoms will crumble, even
Right.
their bodies will fail and everything. If your heart's constricted, what happens when the energy comes in?
Well, their body's gonna fail when the adrenochrome supply gets cut.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
It already is. Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly, yeah.
a lot of them have been like, that's been their lifeline.
Exactly.
You see a lot of them that look like they age.
You'll see a
30
lot, you'll
years,
see a lot of
20 years
people that
and-
you were going to for your information and news and everything else start shape-shifting on TV when
Right.
those pipelines start crashing,
I mean, we do see glimpses of it here and there.
Yeah.
Like glitching effects and stuff.
especially in the UFO community. We're seeing
Right.
double rows of teeth and people's hands turning into claws, and
With the eye
And-
slits.
Yeah, and the
Right,
eye
yeah, I
slits
see that a
and the
lot.
black eyes,
Black
that's demonic,
eyes,
you know.
Right. And then there's people threatened and scared. We're seeing a lot of projection also in the community. It's just like,
Yeah,
it's everybody is being challenged, everybody's being threatened. And since it's not gonna happen like we thought it was, it's gonna be a gradual rollout.
yeah,
That gives us time to work on ourselves. They
Eh,
take it as an
yeah.
opportunity to, all right, okay, disclosure is obviously not coming right around the corner. So what can I do in the meantime to be prepared for when it does happen? Because if we do want to be key players in this and we want to be effective, we have to heal and we need to be up to par for when the
Yeah.
time comes when something does get disclosed, there's going to be a majority of the population who isn't ready and they're going to be coming to us. And what happens if
Exactly.
we have not been working on ourselves
yeah,
and then we're not ready? And then there's information probably going to come out that all three of us are going to be shocked by that we've never
Oh,
saw
yeah.
coming.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're going to have to, that's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with and we're going to have to deal with. But-
Speaking of information, by the way, guys, this is insulation back here.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
not an
We
Illuminati
are not
checkboard.
Illuminati.
So we're not
For the record.
Illuminati.
right?
And I'm
Please
sure people
don't.
are starting to spread that rumor already, but it's called insulation. They're little squares. It's soundproofing. and it's for a studio.
So he's bringing that up.
Freemasons.
He's bringing that up because the early days in our podcast, I had the same checkerboard pattern of foam insulation in the office I
Yeah.
was in. And
Somebody was trying to call us
commented
out about it. Yeah.
saying that we were part of the Illuminati because we had checkerboard pattern. So we all decided to wear checkered.
So yeah.
Or the flannel,
So we all
Yeah.
wore flannel to
Yeah, right.
just make it even more.
or flannel because it's freezing out there. and
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
cutting down dead trees and getting the firewood in.
We'd be
Yeah.
Lumberjacks
Like that.
all weekend.
Right. You know, it's nice though. I actually don't mind it at all. It's so nice to just get off grid technically and
Oh yeah.
and just come out in the woods and cut firewood. I mean, shit.
Everybody needs to do that. You
Right.
got to unplug.
Right.
You know, you
And
got to
then,
walk
yeah.
away, unplug, get back in touch with your soul and your heart, and start looking
Right.
at things with a fresh mind. If you don't, you're just going to get sucked up in all this.
Yeah. And we're cutting jokes all day.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
really bad jokes.
yeah,
Getting paid
exactly.
in dad
Like,
jokes.
Right.
The disposers instead of the
Yeah.
disclosure movement. No, that was good.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
some of the other ones.
The poser disclosure.
Ah,
Disclosure posers.
Yeah.
But no, it's so awesome. And then we're, the path of intention you have here, walking at night and it's just so incredible to be out in nature. And
Yeah.
we're not grounded nearly enough. At least I know I'm not, and I can speak for a lot of people out there who are always indoors on their computer, on their device or
Yeah.
whatever. How often do you actually get out in nature?
Well, people think we sit up here and meditate and eat goji berries and do yoga and stuff like that. It's a working ranch. We're working all the time and we're
Right.
always maintaining the grounds. There's 70 acres here. And we've made this a little paradise, and everything is done naturally. And so we're always working, but it's not work. It's like you're being creative. It's like
Right.
Yeah.
you love your work. So it's not work.
Well,
We
it's
just enjoy doing it. It's just being in nature. and
Well, it's part of
creating.
your artistic personality too, because we're cutting down like logs and there was this one wedge piece and he's like, no, save that. I'm gonna carve it into a cat. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll save
I
it.
should carve it into a
But it's just funny because you're thinking like creatively at the same time. And that's great,
Yeah, utilize all of it too. Like we're cutting all the thick branches up too.
Yeah.
Most people just throw them on a burn pile. And I
Yeah.
go, no, that's fuel.
Yeah.
It gets down to like 20 below. You're gonna wish you had that.
By the way, there's
Yeah.
a stack of firewood out here that'll last you 3 years.
I know.
It's
Holy
massive.
shit.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely got wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have 10 cords out there. I'm not sure. We got so much now.
Well, was there any last words before we start wrapping this up?
I always close with, keep an open mind, loving heart and pure intent, and turn off your TV.
Right.
It's so important. And you're going to run across the people that are, research and critically thinking impaired, that are social engineered and
The byproduct of the fear mongering.
yeah, and just realize that it's not worth it. It's not worth engaging them. Just say,
Mhm.
have a nice day,
Right.
or thank you for establishing your ignorance and your character. Have a nice day. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And just walk away.
You don't want
But-
to feed into that energy.
yeah, and the main thing too is the only reason anybody has any power over you is because you want something from them.
Exactly.
You either want their love, their acceptance, their approval. You want to be part of the herd. Step out of the herd. The herd's going off the cliff.
It is,
It's the
exactly.
lemmings. The herds are lemmings.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you're gonna have to wake up and start going in a different direction if you're gonna be around.
All right. No, that's great. The herd is going off the cliff. That's true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
And we all know
Mhm.
people in our lives that are going off that cliff, and at some point, it's not our responsibility.
Yeah, that Darwin Award is gonna be one of the most,
Right.
most given
Yeah.
awards coming up in the
No,
future.
It's
Right.
rough when it's people like in your family. 'Cause
Yeah,
a lot of people
yeah,
I've
it
seen
is.
have a hard time with.
Yeah.
But you know,
at the same
everybody's
time,
eternal.
exactly.
Even
Right.
also too, the for your DNA, it's all stored in your etheric body. And if you can
Mhm.
create communication between the etheric body and your physical body, you can restore it. And there is some technology to do that, but again, until it's not going to be out until these other ones fall. But and so it's kind of like a horse race with several things involved. You know, you got the Earth's ascending, you got the collective consciousness trying to figure things out. You got the masters and the higher beings trying to wake us up and get us going. And then you got the dark hearts and the Illuminati guys, and they're trying to compress everything and shut it down, and the unseen negative influences. So, you know, it's a four-way race going on. And it's just going back and forth as we're going to the finish line.
That was beautiful, James.
Yeah, it was.
The horse race.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
who
Didn't
were
mean
the
to nag
jockeys?
you.
Who were the jockeys?
Yeah.
Who were the jockeys on the horse? The little grays on
I
it?
guess, yeah, little great
Uh,
jockeys running everything.
No, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on and doing this.
Great.
We've been busting our ass all weekend, so it's nice to have the afternoon off and just have these conversations. What do we have? Oh yeah, guys, our Secret Space Conference next May 2nd through the 5th. Tickets are available. That link is below. If you guys feel compelled, come join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know it's a long way out, but we did that on purpose, give people time to save money, make plans, and we wanted to make sure that the dust settles a little bit before, so people might have better opportunity to travel than they do now. So grab a ticket, come hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll talk James into making a surprise appearance.
Could be. Yeah, I never know.
Never know. We'll see where things are. Other than that, yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And until next time, what does James say? Have a loving heart, pure intent. Right?
Just
Open
totally
mind,
butchered.
loving heart, and pure intent.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, the end. All right, guys. Have
All
a
right, good
great
night.
evening.
Good night, guys.
And we'll see you next time. If I can end this.
Is that something other people can see? It's recorded.